Hello, and welcome to another edition of our Project Elevate series, which you may know by now aims to delve further into specific topics on Irius Risk product capability and give you additional best practice advice. So please do let us know if you have any questions. We'll be monitoring the Q&A as we go, so feel free to ask anytime. In this particular session, we're focusing on utilizing integrations, one of my favorite subjects personally, as it's crucial to be able to integrate with software that you're already using and that you've already spent money on, especially for pre-divide developer workflows and pipelines. And this is where Irius Risk truly complements what you already have, and you'll learn a bit more about this today. I'm very pleased to introduce Walter Gildersleeve, Solution Architect at Irius Risk, who is ready to show you the beautiful world of integrations and how our tool plays particularly nicely with multiple issue trackers. Please enjoy, and over to you, Walter.
Thank you. Excellent. Yeah, so as Claire said, I'm Walter Gildersleeve, Solutions Architect at Irius Risk. And so what we primarily like to do is focus on a few things. The practical part of this is going to be on issue trackers, but I did want to talk through a lot of the different ways that you can integrate with external tools using Irius Risk. And this is actually very important. Irius Risk, if you will, is a snapshot of threats and what can go wrong, but it's not necessarily something that's going to solve the issues, right? So it's kind of like an X-ray. It's going to show you that there's a problem, but it's not going to set the bone. And ultimately, what you're going to be using are other tools to communicate the threats, to communicate the weaknesses, and to get those issues resolved. So given that thought, Irius Risk has spent a lot of time and effort in ensuring that we integrate very well with multiple tools. So the first thing that maybe I'll talk about as far as integrating would be the REST API. This is a very powerful method of integrating. Claire, if you could just go ahead and hop to the next slide. Probably the most powerful and flexible way to integrate with Irius Risk and with other tools. Specifically, you can access threats, threat models, countermeasures and the like from Irius Risk, or you can take what you're finding in Irius Risk and move it on to other tools. So a very seasoned and well thought through REST API. In fact, we have a new addition to that, the version 2 of the REST API. Yeah, just a powerful way to integrate with a tool. We have a GitHub repository that you can use to enhance your integrations. If you're interested in that, we can go ahead and send you over a link to that, and so on. So the next aspect that we'd like to talk about are different ways to integrate with other security tools. So, for instance, we have basically two different ways we could look at this. On the first part is the automated testing tools, like Zap or Cucumber or all that. And the other one is vulnerability tracking. So with testing tools, you know, let's say you've resolved the issues, you feel that everything's good to go, but you're only going to know that you've done the job correctly once you test it. So it's very possible to take these various testing tools that are automatically testing your infrastructures and what have you, and bringing those results into Irius Risk just to tick that box. So you do know that that everything's good to go. On the other hand, you have vulnerability trackers, and that's going to be something that gives you an overview of your entire threat topology. Defect Dojo comes to mind, Thread Fix, and these are tools that you can export threats and risks and all that out of, and provide to give kind of a central view of the various threats in your landscape. So next up, we have the open threat model. This is something that Irius Risk was instrumental in creating and promoting. Open threat model is a open sourced method by which threat models can be stored and communicated and exported and imported, agnostic to any particular program. So this isn't Arius risk specific. You could take it and import it into a different tool. We do have we have seen other tools that are leveraging the OTM in order to exchange information across organizations and between within an organization. So this is something that we've been working on and are currently working on since about 2022, I believe. Just a good way to exchange data with SDLC if you do need to capture the information in a threat model during delivery or QA or whatever. And as I said, between organizations, this is also a great way to exchange information. Next slide, please, Claire. And finally, this is where I wanted to spend the lion's share of my time today. So we have always integrated with issue trackers. Here you see the 4 possibilities that by default we integrate with: Jira, Rally software, formerly I believe it was CA Agile Tracking. We have Azure DevOps and ServiceNow. So this is the whole reason that issue tracking integrations is so important goes back to the core of what Arius Risk is attempting to do. So if you're familiar with Adam Shostak's threat modeling book, he asks 4 basic questions. What are we doing? What could go wrong with what we're doing? How can we mitigate those problems? And how are we doing? Right? So 4 basic questions. And these 4 questions are actually asked by or can be answered by different people. So for instance, if you're asking, what are we doing? This is a question that can be asked by a network engineer. This would be something that could be resolved within Arius Risk. What could go wrong with it? That's going to be something that a security engineer might do. And then this 3rd question, what can we do about it? That's something that you may hand over to engineers or a team of network architects or what have you. People, in fact, that may not work within Arius Risk as their day job. And for that reason, we do provide issue trackers to help bridge that communication and to separate to bridge the silos within the company. Right. So shared responsibility, that's the very important aspect of what we do. You'll often find with development teams, networking teams, or engineering teams, they're not going to be interested in learning a new tool. But one thing they do know very well are issue trackers, Jira or Azure. So that's just a great way to meet these engineers at their level, speaking the language that they can speak. Another great thing about this is the ability to track progress. So you can get burn downs of the issues that you're resolving in the threat model. You can see great progress in moving toward a more secure system. Jira does this very well. ServiceNow does this very well. So it's all a great possibility for enhancing answering the 4th question. How are we doing? How are we moving forward? And finally, integrating into the software development lifecycle is also a big plus when you're working with a ticketing system. So if you are using a CI/CD, for instance, you're, say, automating your network administration through Puppet or Ansible or something like that, you can ensure that the threats have been mitigated. You can look at your tracking system and say, look, we still have 2 threats that are open. What's going on with those? So just another way to integrate directly into your software development lifecycle. So that's kind of a 1,000-meter flyby of the integration methods of Arius Risk. And so what I wanted to do was to get into the nuts and bolts of it and show you some of the new things that we're doing with integration tracking, the different ways to integrate into that and to yeah, I think I'm going to share a different screen. Sorry about that, but yeah, it's just last night. I'll let you know that my instance here got an update, and so we have some exciting things to relay as far as issue tracking goes. So let me go ahead and log into my system. I believe I want to use this one. No, I don't. Right here. Thank you very much. So you see before you a sandbox that I use for myself. And the first thing that I'll show you is just what that means to integrate with issue tracking. So what we have here is the possibility to configure an issue tracker. If you're familiar with Arius Risk before version 4.27, this probably looks a little bit different to you. As I said, this is one of the new updates that have just occurred. What you can do here is you can configure one or more different issue trackers that you can integrate with. You see here I have two different ones. They're both Jira. Doesn't have to be. I could go ahead and integrate with Rally software or ServiceNow. So what's the point? Why do I have multiple? Well, the fact is that you're going to be working with different teams, right? So we're talking about sharing responsibility and integrating with other teams. You may not be working with the same issue tracker for every team. Networking team may have a different issue tracker than the engineering team. So this is this gives you the ability to configure at a global level different integrations into issue tracking and to easily leverage them at the project level. And just to make this to show you practically how this works, let me just go ahead and configure quickly a new issue tracker. Let's say that I'm working with a new team. I have specific issues that they're going to resolve. Well, this is how maybe I would do it. So let me put in my connection details, say INT, and I'm going to use basic auth here. So different ways you can do it. Going to use an access token, drop that in there. And this is also a powerful integration into the various issue tracking. So if you see, I don't have to put in all the information. I have to put in my API token, of course, but then I can go ahead and go to my instance and get the different issues, get the different items that maybe I'll be interested in when I create a connection to an issue tracker. So it actually tells me in that project that I've created or that I've linked to, I have those three issues, and then I can just go ahead and configure, and it'll tell me, it'll give me good feedback as to what I can do. Oh, sorry. I believe that's incorrect. Say, not implemented. Okay, resolved then. It is resolved. So what I'm telling the Arius Risk right now is when I create a ticket, give it a certain status. And when that issue tracker sets an issue to a certain status, then go ahead and close the ticket, and so on and so forth. Can set some other values, how it's going to determine certain levels in the issue tracker. Test it again, working fine. Let me go ahead and publish that. Let's say with a new name. Okay, so I've created a new issue tracker profile. You'll see now when we go out that I have three. I have my primary one, which is configured as the default for the entire setting or setup. I have a secondary one for networking specific tickets, and then I've just created this new one. So let's hop into my projects. And if I go into a particular application, by default, what you're going to see when you click up here under issue trackers is that the global one is configured as the default for this project. Doesn't have to be. I can go ahead and select a different one. So I'm going to make the networking team the default for this project. So anytime that I create a ticket in this project, it's going to default to this networking team issue tracker if I don't specify anything else. So far, so good. I've configured the issue trackers. I've set the defaults. And let me show you specifically how that looks like when you do create an issue from a particular threat or countermeasure or what have you. So you see here in Areas Risk, these are the countermeasures currently in hierarchical format that have been discovered in this architecture that I've created. I'm going to flatten this out. Then we'll see all the countermeasures that exist across the entire estate. And what you see over here under state and under issue ID is what the status of this issue is. So you see that some do have an issue tracker number. Like if I was to click on that, I would go to the issue tracker, and several other don't. So what I'm going to do is I wanted to create one. Let's say I have a VPC issue, and I've just created a issue tracker specifically for my VPC team. So if I go to create new issues, you'll see that this project define global is selected, but I can go ahead and select a different one, and I'm going to do this new one that I just created. And I'm saying, yeah, that's my VPC team, so they're going to be interested in it. Click create issue. It's going to go out to Jira in this case, though of course it could be Rally or Azure DevOps, and you'll see that it's immediately created a new ticket. So as I said, you have your development team. They may not be interested in yet another tool. So this is something that they could work with directly. You see that it has very complete directions about how to handle this problem. They can communicate with your security team who's working within Areas Risk. This is a two-way sync. And if they mark this as done, then it's going to reflect that in Areas Risk as well. So two-way sync. Any comments that you create from Areas Risk will be migrated to Jira practically immediately, and anything you do in the ticketing system is going to, in reverse, come back to Areas Risk.
Just thought of a question, Walter.
Yeah, you betcha.
That people may have. So obviously that was just one item that you moved over into the issue
Correct.
tracker. Can you do bulk? Like what if there were 10 countermeasures you wanted to move into that team specifically? Do you have to do it one by one?
No, that's a great question. And there's a couple different ways to do that. So you can actually just select multiple tickets and say bulk action and create new issue. And what that's going to do is create the 6 issues. So boom, it's going to go out. It's going to create the 6 issues automatically. You can do it on various filters. So if you want to do all required issues automatically, that's not a problem. Something else that I'd also show kind of along that line, and this is also something that I'm excited about, because what you often see are multiple mitigations for different threats. So often when you mitigate one threat, you're going to mitigate all of them. So what you can actually do, I'm just going to select this one that doesn't yet have an issue tracker associated with it. I'm going to create the new issue and do it in my new project, create that. And what it's going to do, it's going to create this new ticket. See, so int 4. And what I can then do is say, you know what, I'm just going to Select all these that are identical. Go again to bulk actions, create new issue. Now, since I know that if I close one issue, it's going to close all the issues, I can go ahead and select that tracker that I just used and the issue that I just created and say create issue. And you'll see that all 5 of these identical countermeasures will be associated with the exact same issue. So very exciting. You can then close off several issues within Arius risk with one fell swoop. So if we go there, I'll go ahead and do it. There is I'm going to click that to done. Now that will sync back to Arius risk, but because Arius risk isn't leaning on a Jira plugin. It's all from Arius risk side. It's doing what we call polling. So it's reaching out to Jira every now and again. So it doesn't happen immediately, but hopefully we'll see in a few seconds that that's been done on the Arius risk side. As I said, it's two-way polling or a two-way sync. If I can get my comments page, this is a problem with a update having occurred in the last 24 hours, as it does take a little while for everything to reload. Let me just try reloading here. So you see it still hasn't synced. It does take so it does, I believe the polling by default is 5 minutes. That can be shortened to as low as 1 minute, that it's going to be reaching out to Jira every minute or to Azure every minute, or it can be increased as well if that's preferable. My last desperation mood, I'm just going to go ahead and refresh my screen to make sure that I have the freshest page. Flatten it again. And see if then I can see the comments.
It wouldn't be a true live demo if there wasn't one delay.
Exactly. And this we could see. This, because this is happening on the Arius risk side, if we go to there, we will see immediately that it has updated it from Arius risk. So truly a two-way sync. Unfortunately, it's still not picking up the changes from Jira. Suffice to say, it will. That it does use the issue tracker as the source of truth. But in any case, that's a great way to group multiple mitigations or threats together, and to close them off all at the same time. Not a lot more to talk about. I mean, threats can also have issues associated with them. As I said, just a great way to bring different teams together and to work across different silos and functions within the organization. Claire, is there anything that I've missed or do you have any further questions that maybe could be discussed?
I was just thinking, as part of the update you referenced for release 4.27, is it's not just tasks, is it, that you can send across? You can
Correct.
also create bugs for different teams as well.
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
another change.
Right. And that would be something. So if you did, that could be another reason to have multiple issue trackers. You could create a new one. And instead of, well, I don't want to do that because that's going to take too much time, but I can go in and instead of selecting a task, I could have one that does actually use bugs instead. So that would be a possibility if you did have say a regression or something like that needed to be taken care of, then that would be the possibility there.
And then one more question. Are there any limitations with roles? So Can anybody do this, or do you have to be an admin or a predefined role
Well,
to
that's
do
a,
that?
also a very important question, one I often take for granted. But yes, of course. So, for instance, you're seeing Irius risk in all my admin glory, right? So I'm here as a using the admin level. I could shut that down quite easily, and nobody would be able to see this. I believe currently the different profiles are visible universally. So if somebody can see a profile, they can see all the profiles, but that will change as well. That will be associated with role-based access controls as well, in case you did have, say, integration that you didn't want everybody to use. That would be something that's coming in the future. But yeah, it's that is something that's controlled granularly by our role-based access controls.
Got it. And then, so you can do the issue tracker integration from the threats or countermeasures. You can do it directly from the project. Is that all of the elements, or can that be done like on the component-based outputs? I know there were some changes in this release, but it might have just been those three.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Let me double check that. That does ring a bell, but I'm not sure if that's in the system yet. But let's
We'll have a look.
oh, there it was. Yeah, so you could actually go. So there you go.
Great.
You're teaching me
Okay.
something. So
So
actually,
it's been,
mhm,
yeah,
very useful
only
in
been
case you do have a like in my example, you have the VPC team, so you could set any VPC work directly to that team.
Brilliant. That's good. It looks like we've covered multiple use cases for different teams, different roles, and perhaps different mitigation processes within those teams. So
Absolutely.
brilliant. Thank you.
Very flexible, very powerful.
Yep. I don't believe we haven't got any questions in. I'll just do one last check, but
Mhm.
don't think that we do. It's your last chance if anyone did want to ask Walter any questions. But I mean, this is literally fresh out of the oven. This
It
was,
is.
as you said, 24 hours ago.
Exactly.
Um, so yeah, really, really great timing that we were able to show all of these sort of upgrades, if you like, for the product.
It's great stuff.
Um,
It's really, really useful stuff.
it is for sure. Thank you very much, Walter. Your
Of
insights
course.
really appreciated today. Thanks to those of you that were able to join live. This was recorded, so it will be uploaded to YouTube shortly, so you can share that on if you wish. And then the next session that we're covering is actually an Ask Me Anything, which is on Monday, the 22nd of April. So if you have questions on really anything, then you can come along to that and we'll get those answered for you. But otherwise, we hope to see you on an Irius Risk webinar soon. And thank you very much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for joining.